Okay. Good afternoon. Jen, I'm assuming we're ready to go here because my screen is working differently, but here we go. My name is Tova Train. Welcome to our webinar today. I hope you've been enjoying all the wonderful programs that we've brought to you. Today is going to be, we have a special guest before the regular webinar, so I will introduce Johnny in a moment. But before I do, I want to wish you all a Chag Kasher V'Sameach, a happy and healthy Pesach. We should see peace soon, and the world should solve its craziness in a timely manner. That's what we want. Anyway, so let's move on. I'm going to introduce our special guest, Johnny Daniels, who is an author and an influencer and born and raised in the UK. Johnny moved to Israel in 2005 at the age of 18, so 5 minutes ago, right, Johnny? After a year studying in yeshiva and volunteering, he chose to make Israel his home and was accepted into the elite paratroopers unit of the IDF, finishing his service as staff sergeant. So while still a political science undergraduate at Bar-Ilan University, he began working with then Deputy Speaker of Defense, Danny Danon, becoming his senior advisor, and he went on to work with politicians from Israel, Britain, Sweden, and the United States. In 2013, Johnny founded From the Depths, a nonprofit organization educating on the Holocaust by sharing the stories of the victims and the survivors. In 2014, he organized a mega event to mark 69 years of the liberation of Auschwitz, bringing half of Israel's members of parliament to that program. Today, Johnny Daniels serves as a speaker, Holocaust educator, Israel advocate, strategic advisor, specializing in new media, and father of two. Johnny, thank you for taking the time and bringing us an update today. And I take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is an interesting time to be speaking and to be coming to you all from here in Israel. It's not the easiest time, as all of you are well aware, but it's a remarkable time. We are truly living through a time today as Jews that will be remembered in history. We're living in historic times. Since October 7th, Jewish life has changed globally. It shifted the way that we look at everything, deal with everything, the way that we respond to everything has changed in an incredible fashion. Everything from the surge in anti-Semitism that we see around the world, in college campuses, to cities, to synagogues being shot at, to ambulances being burnt. It's really a wild time. There's this sense of instability, and it's definitely not something that any of us take lightly. It's something that all of us are feeling. And there's a time, and especially within this period, where we're all feeling that and asking, what's next? The reality in Israel is something we can get onto in a second, but when we look at the reality outside of Israel, for me, that's where I think I am the most afraid. Anti-Semitism, is no longer fringe. It's visible, tolerated all too often, and to a degree become normalized. It's things that we would never have seen in the past, behaviors we wouldn't have seen, suddenly becoming mainstream. This genie that's been let out of the bottle in terms of anti-Semitism, something that goes back in easily. It's out, and it's a reality that we're facing. We're seeing Jewish community centers and synagogues and schools relying on security that is kind of unbelievable. No one else has this level of security that we need to have. And we see it across governments. It doesn't really matter who's in power. The public sentiment has shifted towards this anti-Semitic wave. And this is what we're feeling. I don't like comparisons to times in the past. I don't think history necessarily repeats itself, but it definitely rhymes. Now, with that being said, when we look towards Israel and we understand where Israel is today, I think we're seeing something that's truly, truly remarkable. Israel isn't just a refuge for Jews, it's a reality. It's a place where we are the majority. It's our home. It's a place where we live by the Jewish calendar. We're coming up now to Pesach, and everything around us reminds us of that. Every single supermarket has everything that you want and need. Over the week of Passover, over the week of Pesach, half the supermarkets are covered in black bags, blocking off all the chametz. You feel the festivals. Hanukkah, donuts everywhere. It's this part of life and living within this Jewish calendar. The language is our language. The language our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents, and all the way back spoke. And the culture, all of this is ours, and it belongs to us. And the incredible thing is that decades ago, when Jews were thinking of making Aliyah, there was the difficulty of going to a place that was not easy, that was hard. But today, Israel truly is already and becoming even more a world superpower. We're stepping today into the absolute golden age of Jews in Israel. This is going to be the golden years. By the end of this war, please God, we'll be in a position where we have almost no enemies around us. With a strong economy, an unbelievable tech sector, and innovation on a level that's kind of unimaginable. Israel's entering a period where even now, when we look at all the currencies around the world falling, the shekel remains incredibly strong, which is good for us who live in Israel and not great for those who come. But even that is manageable and dealable as well. And this community and this sense of belonging that all of us have, home in Israel, is impossible to replicate or to change anywhere around the world. You'll know that feeling. You come to Israel and immediately you feel at home. Now, people often ask me, is it the right time to come? With so many things going on, should I be moving to Israel now? Should I be coming? Now, there's a few different ways to look at this. Firstly, we're seeing an increase of Aliyah, even within this period. Just last week, in the midst of war, 50 new Olim made Aliyah from North America, took a plane, packed their bags, and moved their lives to Israel. And again, this feeling of coming home is a feeling of such incredible strength and of being surrounded by each other and being with each other in our homelands. It's a place where we feel strong, we feel comfortable, we feel together. And for me, as someone who's traveled so much, and I know that I'm speaking to some wonderful people in Toronto. Toronto's a wonderful place. I love visiting. UB, great place to visit. What a great lunch. The community's nice, it's lovely. Canadians are nice, good people. But there still is nothing like coming home. And honestly, when I look at what the future brings and you think about the years ahead, again, the golden age of Jews is going to be in Israel. And unfortunately, not in other places. Our American brothers and sisters are already talking about the fact that the golden age of Jews in the United States is over. Completely dependent on who's in political power at that time as to whether they're favorable or not. This isn't the kind of situation that we should be living in or the position in which we should feel and find ourselves today. And so with that being said, I really look towards this aliyah from so many people as something that's remarkably positive. It's not always the easiest, and you can't sugarcoat these things. Israel is a tough country. The people in Israel can be a little bit rough. They're definitely not as polite as Canadians. I think probably in one afternoon in Toronto, you hear more people say sorry than you would in an entire year in Israel. But what you're definitely doing by moving to Israel is giving your children a better opportunity, and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and generations beyond them a better opportunity at building a life in the comfort and the stability of being amongst their own. You know, I've traveled with my kids to many countries, and everywhere we go, you're walking and constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering what's next. Is it safe to go here? Is it safe to go there? In Israel, that feeling doesn't exist. You know, I was in America for an extended period, and I came back to Israel, and I was sitting in a coffee shop with a friend, and we started talking about Israel. And I brought up the conversation, and immediately I started to whisper, thinking, oh God, someone's around going to hear me talk about Israel and say something. Who knows what will happen? And I realized I was in Israel. I don't need to worry about talking about those things. I'm home, I'm amongst my own. And that strength and that feeling by far is the best feeling in the world. So really, I encourage every single one of you, if Aliyah isn't on your plans right now, it definitely should be something that you're looking forward to in the future. Anyone who comes to Israel, coffee's on me, dinner as well if you really like it. And, you know, as people say, it's tough in Israel. And I say, well, you know what? There's one thing I guarantee you. The weather is a lot better and the food's a lot nicer as well. So, you know, I'm, again, as always, happy to answer your questions. I'm always here. And I really do definitely encourage all of you to make that step, because there isn't anywhere better.
Thank you, Johnny. I take my latte extra hot, in case you were wondering, you know, for that cup of coffee. Amit tells me they're lining up for lunch in Israel now, so we know the food is better, and I would do anything to be there with it. It's hard to imagine that we live in Canada now with the times that we are in, and that we don't have the protections that we seek, but all good reasons for our next guest to talk to us about making Aliyah. So let me move on to our introductions. Thank you, Johnny, so much. You're welcome anytime. I come to Toronto, I'll make you a coffee. How's that? I'll take you for coffee. Okay.
Deal. Looking forward to it. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Okay, so on to the next. So let me introduce both of our speakers together. I'll leave them to do the presentation, and Lisa will come on at the end to do to administer any questions, that kind of thing. But just in the interest of time, we will introduce both together. So first, Amit Banayan, who's joining us from Israel, Amit has a diverse background in spanning premium real estate, high tech, the medical sector, all sorts of things. And he serves as the head of investor relations at the Israel-Canada Group. For over 7 years, he's led the department, cultivating trusted long-term partnerships and managing strategic relationships with clients and investors. Amit holds a BSc in computer science and an MBA from Reichman University, which is IDC Herzliya. His comprehensive market expertise ensures that investors receive thoughtful, personalized guidance tailored to their long-term financial objectives. So welcome, Amit, from your, I understand from Shoshana, from your bomb shelter. So thank you for making the time for that. Shoshana Mizelsky is a director of market development. And Shoshana and I have had the discussion, is it Israel-Canada or Canada-Israel Group? But that's for another time, whatever comes out. With over 24 years of experience in luxury real estate and investment management, Shoshana serves as Director of Market Development at the Israel-Canada Group, where she leads the organization's strategic growth and market expansion within Canada. In this role, she focuses on building trusted relationships and connecting clients to premier residential and investment opportunities in Israel. Shoshana works closely with members of the Canadian Jewish community, providing thoughtful, personalized guidance to families and investors seeking to deepen their connection to Israel through real estate. Her approach is relationship-driven and grounded in trust, discretion, and a clear understanding of her clients' long-term objectives. I hand it over to both of you. Thank you so much for your time and giving us the opportunity to hear what you have to say.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Shoshana?
I'll let you start.
I'll let you start. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tova, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone who joined us. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak here in front of all the CHW members. We are very grateful for that. I would also like to thank Johnny for taking the time and joining us and telling us a little bit why now is the time to think about Israel and to consider making Aliyah and buy real estate in Israel. A few words about myself. On the personal side, I'm 50 years old, married, 3 kids, born and raised in Jerusalem, currently in the center of Israel. And for the last 7.5 years, I'm holding the head of client and investor relations at Israel Canada Group. A bit about the company. Israel Canada is the biggest, the largest real estate developer in Israel. The company was established more than 25 years ago. The company is public, is traded in the Israeli Stock Exchange with a valuation of more than 7.5 billion shekels. It's good to know that the company is transparent and everything that we do is obviously public. The company is focused on all the aspects of the real estate world in Israel, starting from residential complexes, of course, moving to hotels. I believe we are the second or third biggest hotel chain in Israel. We have hotels all over the country. If any one of you is looking for a vacation in Israel, let us know and we will do the best to assist you. Moving to assistant living, offices. We hold tons of lands, agricultural lands for future developments. If I'm relating to what Johnny was saying, that this is the place for us, for our kids and grandchild, sorry. This is also something we do. The company strategic is the better and different strategy. Everything we do or every project we look at go through the better and different glasses that we all wear. This is the way we select our projects, select our architects, locations, the way we design and sell. I will be happy to elaborate on that a bit in future webinars. And a little bit about our project. The company focuses mainly on in the center of Israel, in Tel Aviv and its surroundings. This is where we believe people would like to live, to work, and to stay. Most of our projects are in the center of Israel, starting with Tel Aviv and the first and the second circles of Tel Aviv. That's all in general. This is a little bit about me. In case later on anyone have a question, with pleasure. And Shoshana, with pleasure. Take it from here.
Okay. Thanks, Amit. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. My name is Shoshana. I've actually been with Canada Israel or Israel Canada for over 24 years, where I'm entering my 25th. I started with the company when one of our main focuses was Israeli investors investing in Canadian real estate, which for many years was very attractive to Canada was a very attractive place for international investors. So we focused on that. Over the last decade, that's become a little bit less favorable due to facts on the ground and being more difficult to be a foreign investor in Canada. And over the last few years, since October 7th, we've realized that the dynamics on the ground have changed considerably. I myself, I was born in Israel, but I've actually been here since I was a kid. My parents brought us here in 1981, and I grew up in Canada when it was one of the best places in the world to live. I grew up in the suburbs of Toronto. had a great life, had great friends, grew up in a very Jewish community, got married, have kids in Hebrew school, and since October 7th, things changed here. My kids' school required cops to be present in front, parked in front of the school 24 hours a day. Our institutions got attacked on a regular basis. And we started reevaluating whether we wanted to grow old here and have our kids grow old here. And my husband, who's an American, who always used to joke that we'd end up in Hawaii or Florida, started saying, you know what, maybe we do want to go to Israel. So I met with our office in Israel on several occasions, and we realized that if this is how I feel, an immigrant who grew up here, that there's probably very many people in the same situation as myself, both immigrants and first, second, third generation Canadian Jews who are now reevaluating whether we want to stay in Canada and if we want our kids and our grandkids to have a future here, or maybe it's time to look to Israel, like my parents did back in the 70s. So we've decided to partner with CHW and help market ourselves, our projects, our company to assist the Canadian Jewish community in finding a home in Israel that's right for them. And that's it. So, hi, Lisa.
Hi, Shoshana. Hi, Amit.
Hey,
Good to see
Lisa.
you guys. Thank you so much for sharing details about your company and introducing us to the idea of purchasing a property in Israel. As Shoshana, you live here, so you know that, increasingly we're witnessing a rise of anti-Semitism in Toronto and across
It's
Canada.
mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. It's frightening. And then I saw in the Globe and Mail a report release that, I think it was the Globe and Mail, that the predictions of, some sort of mass casualty incident is pending over the next couple of, months that they're predicting this. God, God help us if it does. I hope it doesn't. And certainly nobody wants anything like that, but it makes you feel really scared and uneasy. And this isn't meant to be a session to frighten people, but more so a positive conversation about options. And when we decided to partner up, we did it because we wanted to do just that, to educate our donors as we do with any other webinar or project or program or whatever we do. It's all about education and allowing our members and donors and supporters to make decisions for themselves. So this is the first in a four-part series. And I thought maybe at this point we would look at some questions that would help to illuminate for our donors, what it's like to have real estate in Israel, whether it's for an investment or a vacation property, or if, unfortunately, there are those that are listening and watching that are thinking of a plan B. What does that mean for Canadian families that want to relocate? So I invite anyone who's watching to put your questions in the Q&A and I will happily share them. But maybe, at this very early stage, maybe you can sort of help us on, what is driving that interest in owning a home in Israel right now, from your perspective, Shoshana, because you're a Canadian like me. I could answer it. I know what's driving it for me, and I'm looking at a variety of options. But what's creating this interest for people right now?
I think it's because the world has changed so drastically in the last few years. As I said when I was introducing myself, Toronto used to be a city where people would be like, it's the nicest city in the world. The only thing that isn't great about Toronto is the weather. And now people are like, wow, Toronto has so many issues. They don't even remember that it's freezing cold outside. The reality is the dynamics on the ground have changed and we're not as safe anymore. We don't have, to be honest, it's not just that we're not as safe anymore. I think many members of our community are looking towards our government leadership at a municipal, provincial, and federal level and saying that they're not doing everything in their power to protect us and to help our community and to help and to deal with the issues that are causing both not just the genuine fear, but it's justified fear. If we're having synagogues shot at, then Toronto, Canada, and Montreal and Vancouver, because I know we have people here from different cities in Canada, we don't have the same level of comfort that we did 2.5 years ago. And that's not okay. And that's actually a huge driver because right now the Canadian Jewish community is looking at the situation the same way that the Jewish community in France and England and Belgium have been looking at it for years. They're scared. Amit, do you have anything to add to that?
Um, Not too much because again, you spoke from your perspective as Canadian. I can speak a bit widely. Through the last few months, we are approaching Jewish communities around the world. So we've been in Paris, we've been in New York, we've been in London, and we hear exactly what Shoshana is saying in different words. Okay? Um, the climate has changed since October 7, the way people around the world are looking at Israel and looking to buy a home, a shelter, a place in Israel. At the end of the day, people understand that here, although it's a war right now, and I spoke with Tova earlier, and I told her that, the restaurants are full, cafes are full, and the weather is amazing. At the end of the day, this is our place. This is our
Right.
home. Israel is our
Right.
home.
So the questions are starting to roll in. But if somebody was considering purchasing a piece of real estate for whatever their reasons are, what are the first, couple of steps that someone should take if they're seriously interested in buying?
Shoshana, would you like to start?
So Amit and I spoke about this earlier. So the three first things would be open an Israeli bank account, put together a budget, because, we have to be a little bit realistic because Israeli real estate is not like Toronto real estate or Montreal real estate. You need to understand the market a little and put together a realistic budget. And you got to decide where you want to live, right? Do you want Jerusalem? Do you want Tel Aviv? Do you want to be like in the heart of Tel Aviv, like where it's hustling and bustling? Or are you looking more in the suburbs, in a subdivision, something quieter, something where you can't necessarily walk everywhere. You can walk to the park, you can walk to other stuff, but you're not within walking distance of everything.
So
Those are
to
the
that
three.
point, one of the questions actually is about neighborhoods and areas and comparing them to the GTA. Can you actually illuminate that for our listeners?
So, for looking at it in a GTA, I'm gonna use Thornhill and Midtown Toronto as an example.
Sure.
Okay. So let's say you're looking at Midtown Toronto. You're looking at something that's very accessible, steps from public transit, so that you want to be within Tel Aviv, as not necessarily where it's super busy, but you want to be in Tel Aviv within the city limits, but not like where it's hustling and bustling. If you're looking at something more like Thornhill, you'd be looking at, we have a few developments. One is called Beit Hanara, which is in Hod HaSharon, and which is an amazing suburban town just to the northeast of Tel Aviv. There's also an area called North Park where we have developments. And that also, it's at the very northeastern tip of Tel Aviv's extended boundaries, bordering on Ramat HaSharon. Those are amazing suburbs. Those are areas that have a lot of green. They have low-rise buildings, and a lot of like you're not huge sky rises. So if you're looking at it more from like a Midtown versus Thornhill GTA thing, though, that's what I would look at. I would,
Sure.
if you're a Thornhiller and you don't want to hear, because in Israel, one of the things that they use most in Israel is the car horn. It's just a reflex. So it is, he knows. If you want
Shoshana?
less of that, then I would be more in the suburbs and
Right.
less in the center, like in the core of Tel Aviv.
So, let's go back for 1 second because I did cut you off and I apologize, but the question came in and it was just an appropriate timing. So you said, okay, first couple of steps, open an Israeli bank account. So you make it sound like it's so easy. Every time I've been in Israel, if, for CHW, we have to do any banking, it's a whole balagan. Walk us through what do we have to do when we go to open a bank account? Like what are some of the documentation they might ask for? How do you do that?
So I'm going to hand this over to Amit in a second. I do want everyone to understand, yes, everything Israel is a little bit complicated. It is a country where red tape is just part of the day to day. But when you're dealing with Israel Canada, we are literally Israel's largest real estate development company. We have contacts in everything. I've been with the company for so long that I remember one of the founders saying, one day I'm hoping to be Israel's largest real estate developer. 24 years later, he's Israel's largest real estate developer. So we have the ability to handhold you through the process. But I'm going to hand it over to Amit because he can actually explain all of that in more detail.
Thank you, Shoshana. Exactly as you mentioned, we are very well connected in all those institutions. But in general, you were asking what is the process of buying real estate in Israel. And of course, Shoshana started by saying opening a bank account. And yes, you need to decide about the location, you need to decide what is your budget, etc. But the very first step that I will recommend someone who is looking to buy a real estate in Israel, and hopefully with us, of course, is to start the process of opening a bank account. Now, we do have 2, 3 different lawyers who can, of course, assist with the process. So, and this is also reflecting to one of the future webinars we are going to hold because we are going to speak about it. And for the event we are going to hold in May, so we are hoping to bring a lawyer, a native English speaker lawyer, to also speak about that. So opening a bank account in Israel can take few good weeks to open, can take 4 or 5 weeks to open. You will need an assistance of a local lawyer who will guide you through the process. Of course, the local bank will run a know your client and they will ask for a few documentations to know who exactly the client is, what is the sources of the money, of course, etc., etc. It's very common. Shoshana mentioned, yeah, it's a bit, it might take some time. It might be a little bit of, as you mentioned, balagan, but at the end of the day, once having a bank account in Israel and transferring money and sending money, wiring money to Israel, later on, buying a property will be much, much easier. So, location, budget, and opening a bank account. And yes, we will assist with that. We do have connections. So it's a 360 service that we can provide.
That's amazing. And I'm sure somewhat, reassuring to people that they're not doing this all by themselves and that you can help assist with the process. And, you're not just selling them real estate and then walking away and saying all the best to you. You're hand holding through the whole process. And I think that that speaks to, the integrity of your company and the fact that, you are the largest real estate developer and you've got a very strong reputation and it's not just about sales for you. It's about, it's being part of a bigger family. And that's what I always feel when I go to Israel. I feel like I'm part of a bigger family with a whole lot of cousins I don't know. But that's how it always feels for me. And, you know, um, some of the questions that we're getting, actually, a couple are the same, but let's talk about pre-construction versus already constructed and these options. Does it make sense to buy pre-construction? And or is it better to purchase something where they can actually see it and walk through it? What do you think?
So, again, I think we're both going to answer this question. One of the benefits with pre-construction is it gives you time, you know, purchasing something halfway across the world, especially if you're not 100% sure yet whether you're going to use it as a vacation property, an investment property, or as your plan B property, you kind of need some time to make that purchase, to come to tie up loose ends here. And when you are and also to pay for it, because when you're buying something pre-construction, you don't need to have 100% of the funds the day that you're buying it. So by buying something pre-construction, you're buying yourself time. And in a time when the world is changing so drastically, sometimes it takes time to make aliyah, to look for, like, to if you're buying it for aliyah purposes, it allows you that extra time. The other big benefit to buying pre-construction is that most properties in Israel tend to grow in value during their construction period. So if you're looking for something move-in ready, it's quite possible it's going to cost you a lot more money than something pre-construction. So there's those two different angles for why to buy something pre-construction. So you give yourself both the time and the financial benefits, and you're allowing your property to grow in value. And then I'll hand it over to Amit, who deals with this on a daily basis.
Thank you again. You mentioned the exact same point I had in mind. One more comment is the variety of different apartments when the project is pre-constructed or in the very early stages. So you have much more options to select from. So it's either a low floor, high floor, size of the unit, etc., etc. So you have much more variety to select from versus a second-hand home, which is fixed.
We're getting questions around the currency. So would someone pay for this property in shekels or in US dollars? And can they use, I guess, stocks or capital, that sort of thing to pay for it? I'm assuming not. And the other question that sort of goes with this and kind of goes back to the opening of a bank account. I mean, could someone, for example, buy this property either with Canadian dollars or from a US account in full transferred from Canada?
So all of our projects are financed by the biggest banks in Israel. The contracts in Israel are covered by the construction law or whatever it mentions. So we build according to the Israeli law. So in general, when buying an apartment in Israel, eventually we need to pay in shekels from an Israeli bank account. So you can transfer the money to Israel, to your local bank. The money will be converted to shekels, and at the end of the day, we pay in shekels. When buying a apartment in Israel, again, pre-constructed, so the buyer receive a bank guarantee. So the money goes to the bank. It doesn't go to the company. It doesn't go to us, to Israel, Canada. So it goes to the bank. The bank issue a bank guarantee. So in touch wood, something happens. So the money is secured and the buyer will receive his money back, his or her money back. And so to answer the question, the source of the money can be stocks, can be US, Canadian dollars, etc. But once it was transferred to Israel, it should be converted to shekels. And at the end of the day, we pay with shekels.
And that's the need then, of course, for the Israeli bank account, right?
Correct.
Makes sense. Okay. Talk to us a little bit about pricing in various neighborhoods that Shoshana mentioned. I'm getting questions around what sort of pricing should we expect in Tel Aviv. If I buy a condo at St. Clair and Avenue Road, I know that I'm going to pay a lot more than if I bought a condo in Thornhill, for example. So give us an idea of what kind of pricing Tel Aviv versus, the outskirts of Tel Aviv that you discussed.
In general, we need to understand that the way of living is a bit different in Israel than in Canada, for example. Apartments are much more common here in Israel than in the US, than in Toronto, for example. We do have private homes, but it will be in the third and fourth circles of the center. So a nice apartment in Tel Aviv and its surroundings, let's say 120 square meters and above, should start at around 6 million shekels, which is, I would assume, 2.5 and up million Canadians.
Sorry,
Shoshana?
he's speaking. He said 120. He means square meters, which is about 1,350 to 1,400 square feet. And
Okay.
he's talking
Okay.
about very centrally located. As I mentioned before, if you were to look at the exact same thing further in the suburbs, you get a lot more,
A much bigger one, of course.
much bigger, and sometimes even for a lot less than he's speaking about. So it depends on the location. Like if you're in the hub, it is considerably more expensive than if you're in the suburbs.
So if I want a place on the beach, I'm gonna pay, an arm and a leg, which makes sense. That view costs a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about the mortgage process, if you don't mind, and what kind of consumer protection is in place to protect, the buyer and the developer.
So I'm just going to talk about the protections and he'll talk about the mortgage. When he
Okay.
was talking about a bank guarantee, that means that all money that you put in for a development is guaranteed by both the banks and the government of Israel. So if you're putting down money on a property, and something falls through, the bank would give you whatever money you put in. And if part of that would have been the VAT, which would have gone to the Israeli government, and the Israeli government would be returning any VAT should there be an issue. So it's similar to CMHC, but it's not capped like CMHC and Tarion, right? Where you're only covered for part of your deposit. In Israel, you're covered for the entirety of your deposit. Part of it is guaranteed by the bank, and any tax related to it is guaranteed by the Israeli government. Okay, and then when it comes to the mortgaging and the complexities and how much you can get, I'll get Amit to speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
So regarding mortgage, a foreigner can get around 50% of the apartment cost as a mortgage. Once making Aliyah, once moving to Israel, in many cases, the buyer can get a higher mortgage, up to 70% of the apartment cost. Again, I spoke about it before. We, of course, assist. So we go with the buyer to some of the biggest banks in Israel and escort and assist the buyer of getting a mortgage through one of the biggest banks. And again, all of our projects are financed by the biggest banks of Israel. Those banks will be happy to provide loans, mortgages to the buyers, and they will do the best they can to assist with the interest, etc., etc. But if you need to summarize it, the buyer usually needs to have between 30 to 50% of the apartment cost out of the pocket money, and the rest can come from the bank. Mortgages can be for starting from 10 years all the way to even 30 years loan. So you return it for long period.
And what are the interest rates right now? What's the
I would say that currently the interest is about 5.5% for mortgages. It used to be low. It used to be around 3.5, and I believe it will go back there in few years.
And we have open and closed, variable, non-variable. Do you have the same sort of options? No.
Of course.
Oh, we do. You do.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course, can. Yeah, yeah. You have several options. Mortgages are very, very, you have a large variety of different mortgages, different loans, different periods. Of course, you can close it, you can refinance it, you can move it from one bank to another, of course.
Can you speak for a moment about market trends and, what, property in terms of just historically are things on the way up? Has it, been a boom and then a bust? Or like tell us a little bit about the real estate market in Israel.
So, with the Israeli real estate market, if anybody has been there in the last few years, they'll see that the growth is unbelievable. Everywhere you turn, there's a crane, there's developments. And while in Canada, the real estate industry has basically stagnated, the growth in Israel continues. And the growth in Israel continues for several reasons. The first one is Israel's economy has been booming for years. Between their tech sectors and their innovation, the defense industries, the fact that multiple multinationals keep announcing that they're investing and opening up offices there, the economy is booming. So with a booming economy comes the demand for housing. So both for housing and for commercial space. And as Israel's largest developer, we do both. So we've actually seen huge growth in both our commercial and residential real estate projects. We recently built the new Microsoft head office. If you are in Israel, or if you look at the skyline, you repeatedly see buildings with our logos on it because there's growth, and it's huge growth. And outside of the fact that the economy is booming, you also have the factor that you have a huge influx of immigration. You have people coming from all over G7 countries looking to buy a home there, as I said, for several different reasons, either as an investment or a vacation property, aliyah, or a plan B. So you constantly have a buyer, and you have limited supply. You can only build so much so fast. So once you factor all of those things in, the real estate the real estate economy, like the real estate industry and the economy as a whole is constantly in growth.
And the trends, like in terms of, I know you're not an oracle and you can't predict the future, but where do you see the next
Well,
3 years,
it,
5 years?
if I want to look at if I'm looking at Israel's economy as a whole, all I have to do is look at their shekel. Over the last decade, the shekel has been one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing currency in the world. I remember visiting Israel a decade ago, and one Canadian dollar was 4 shekels. And today it's 2.3.
Right.
So that shows you the strength of their economy, and there's no there's no real lull in sight. As I said, when you have the world's biggest tech companies investing there, the economy is going to grow. Actually, one of our developments that we're currently working on is a joint partner collaboration with a huge international tech company called Checkpoint. We're building 2 buildings in Tel Aviv. The project is called People. And the first one building is a residential building, and next to it, the complementary high rise is Checkpoint's new international head office. And
Right.
at the bottom, you have an additional building. So that complex is a major reflection of the growth of Israel's economy. I think, yeah, there. So if you the building facing us is the residential tower, and the building to the right is the new international head office slash campus of Checkpoint, which is based in Israel.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
now I'll pass it over to Amit to just talk a little bit about that stuff.
Just to understand, Checkpoint is a $25 billion cyber company traded at the Nasdaq. It's one of the biggest cyber companies in Israel. And they have been trusting us to build their new campus. So we purchased this plot together with Checkpoint, and the tower on the right will be their new campus, and the residential building on the left will be 250-ish apartments. And by the way, I believe 80 or 90 Checkpoint employees already bought an apartment here. And this building will be ready in 5.5 to 6 years. This is, again, just an example. Going back to what you were asking about the market, so Shoshana answered very clearly, and she was speaking about the economy, and she was speaking about the shekel, etc. And I will go back to the comment I made before. Israel Canada is a public company. And as a public company, everything is transparent, and you can always look at our stock price. And in general, you can look at the stocks of all the other Israeli real estate companies. The direction is one, up. Prices in Israel, real estate prices in Israel are going up all the time. Between pre-sale to completion, and this is going back to the previous question, usually you would expect 30% price difference between pre-sale to completion. So that's another reason, again, to buy in pre-sale and pre-constructed.
What about
I
the
actually,
price? Sorry,
sorry, I just
one
have,
question. There was a question about resale properties. What about the price difference between brand new versus resale? Because I know you're a developer, so it's going to be brand new properties. You're not really commenting on resale. But if somebody's looking for a place, and what kind of pricing would there be between resale versus brand new?
so 2 things I want to mention. One of the things with resale, it depends on if you're looking for a newer building or an older building, because there are certain things that are being included in buildings now, that you may not find in an older building. A perfect example is the safe room. In older
Well, and
buildings,
there's a question about the safe rooms in your building, so
so
that's a
I want
great
to,
segue.
so just so you know, in older buildings, a lot of anything built before the first Gulf War,
1980.
What?
Before 1980.
So anything built before or around the first Gulf War didn't have a safe room. So the safe room is basically at the bottom of the building or sometimes in a neighboring building. Everything built after would have a safe room uh, in the building. Now, anything built even more recently has safe rooms that have basically has transitioned with time. So let's say it used to be that the safe room was usually the smallest room with the smallest window, it was basically the room that you didn't want to use the most. Now they're transforming that. They want to make sure that in newer buildings, if possible, that the safe room would be attached to the bathroom because you want to have a bathroom, things like that. So things have changed. So it really depends. And to be honest, building buildings built now, newer buildings built in Israel now are architecturally spectacular. They're beautiful. They're
Yes.
buildings built before were just your standard cement building. Now
Sure.
you drive through Tel Aviv and you see these beautiful new buildings where architecture is a huge focus. So this is she. This is actually one of our newest buildings, and it'll
And
be one of the most visually spectacular
spectacular.
and luxurious buildings in Israel.
Yeah, and I'm
So,
going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there because you have the most beautiful portfolio. And in the next session on April 15th at noon Eastern Daylight Time, we're actually going to go inside your portfolio
yes.
and we're going to see more of your projects and we're going to talk further. And this is only the first in a four-part series. So we want everybody to definitely not only register, but rewatch this recording. And we look forward to seeing you on all four parts of the series. And share it. Please share it widely with your friends, your neighbors, your family. Share the information. Shoshana, I want you to just tell us your email address because I did get some questions about people who want to do a deep dive and speak to you personally one-on-one. So can you share that?
So actually, the easiest way to reach us is Toronto at Canada-Israel.com
Perfect.
or Shoshana at Canada-Israel.com. But
Perfect.
it's easier to remember the other way.
And I'm also going to share that on May the 5th, you guys are hosting a light dinner and an information session, an opportunity to meet in person in Toronto, God
And myself.
willing, and to meet Shoshana in person, who lives here anyways, and you can meet her anytime. And to come talk to you guys to learn more about the projects, to learn more about what that transition of living would be like, or that investment purchase, and how this company, Israel Canada, will hold your hand through the whole process, make it easy for you, become part of the bigger family in Israel. I want to thank you both so much for sharing with us today, for being part of this webinar, for allowing us to learn more about this really important topic. And I also want to remind everyone that there's still an opportunity to purchase Passover e-cards and Mother's Day e-cards on our website. So don't forget about those loved ones in your life and send greetings to them. Again, thank you both so much for being part of today. And thank you to Johnny Daniels, and thank you to everyone who's watching. We're recording, we will post this, we will share this, and do share it widely with everyone that you know that might appreciate the information. And goodbye. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.